Hi.
Uh, Hi Pankaj. Pankaj, we should be starting in 2 minutes, so you can switch off the camera and
Yeah.
we'll go live anyways.
A warm welcome to all of you. Hi, I'm Shreya Malkan, Deputy Growth Manager at AD Nayak Wealth, wherein we specialize in building passive income and wealth management strategies for business owners, doctors, and professionals. In the last 33 years, we have helped 3,980 families across 17 countries achieve their wealth creation goal worth rupees 1,400 crores through us. Like a daily routine, we all ask this question at least once in a day. Market kya lagta hai? Are the market volatile due to falling US or a crash in Silicon Valley Bank? Is US on its way to recession and its impact on our country? To address all our worries, today we have with us Mr. Pankaj Tibrewal. Mr. Tibrewal is a Senior Executive Vice President and Senior Fund Manager, having over 2 decades of experience in fund management space and manages over 38,632 crores at Kotak AMC. Before we begin the webinar, let us see everyone's perception towards market. Elvina, let's share the poll. How do you perceive the movement of the market during the year? The market will move up by at least 10%, or market will further go down by 10%. We will be closing the poll in next 10 seconds. As we can see, 76% of participants think the market will go up by at least 10% from over here. Thank you for taking the poll. Please keep posting all your question and answers in the Q&A box, and we will take it at the end of the webinar. Now, let's start with the session. Over to you, Mr. Tibrewal.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and warm welcome. Thank you, Shreya. Thank you, Nikhil Bhai. Thank you, Anay, and the entire NAC Wealth team and the investors. Am I loud and clear?
Yeah,
Yes,
Pankaj,
sir.
we can hear you well.
Okay, great. So what I'll do, लोगों ने बोला market क्या लगता है? So you will be disappointed if I will tell you that I will give you कि कल क्या होने वाला है, next 2 महीने बाद क्या होने वाला है. But what I'll attempt today is two things. One, I'll give you an overview on what's happening globally and locally at the ground level. And second, I will try, if time permits, to show you from the inner lens of a fund manager that how do we build portfolios, how do we select stocks, so that you get a lot of confidence on how things are played out when we manage your money. And I think that is very, very important. Nobody would have talked about it, but there's a lot of science and art behind what we do on a daily basis. And if that process is right, I think over a period of time, you will make less mistakes, and making less mistakes is the most important thing in investments and in life. So let's see how the flow goes and the time permits, but promise you that I will not be able to tell you what's happening tomorrow, but probably once you spend an hour and a half, you will probably think that the long weekend is well utilized, and probably you will get some good inputs from overall thing. So friends, just start from the global front. I think in US, things are not looking great. I think over the last year, things have actually deteriorated over a period of time. You saw the fastest increase by a central bank in the US over the history. 450 basis points increase in interest rates over 1 year. Inflation was the highest ever in the last 35, 40 years. So I think US economy is going through its own turbulent times. And last year was the first year where you had all the asset classes giving you negative returns, whether it be equity, debt, crypto, or real estate. And I think our sense is that probably the credit event has just happened. I was always wondering that almost 1 साल हो गया, interest rate 0 का 5 हो गया, but कोई accident क्यों नहीं हुआ? And finally, that accident has happened in terms of 4 banks going under and taking help. And I think, I don't know whether it's the end or the start, but this contagion normally doesn't stop very soon. So probably over the next few months, probably you could see more bad news coming out from the US. Yield curve has inverted big time. Jo bond ke yield curve hota hai, that's a big indication that recession and the growth slowdown is probably coming through. Also, when you look at the tech companies laying off, they are always the start. They had overloaded the bench last 2-3 years, and that will probably start seeing coming down now. And my sense is that US will go through a slowdown phase over the next 12 months. Money supply, jo 15% growth chala gaya tha, and equity and money supply is in a way correlated, has started to come down, and it's come down to 2%. And इसके कारण liquidity tight हो रही है, उसके कारण overall equity markets are in a sideways or a corrective mode. Coming a little east on Europe, I think things are not as bad as envisaged, say 6 months back, but things are bad. Energy costs have just zoomed there. Uh, Factories have seen energy cost multiplying 2 times, 3 times. The cost of production has gone through the roof because Russia was the sole supplier of gas to Europe, and they have switched off all the pipelines. And as a result, Europe is in a trouble. You speak to any of your friends staying in London or any part of Europe, they will say that the house electricity bill has gone up by 50 to 100%. And in Europe, demographics is aging. They are any which ways having low growth. So Europe में भी कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा problem चल रहा है. And our sense is that Europe will go through its slow phase over the next decade or so. Coming to, I think, a little more east, which is China, which is an interesting spot. Last couple of years, they have been very stringent on COVID policy. बहुत ज़्यादा COVID के लिए strict थे. उन्होंने लॉकडाउन खोला अभी जनवरी में, so you saw economic activity picking up significantly out there. And my sense is that economic activity, there are 2-3 things which is going on in China. I think structurally speaking, China is going through an economic reset. Last 30 साल से वो 6 से 8% के बीच में grow कर रहे थे. And my sense is over the next decade or so, the growth rates in China will be 3 to 5%. And this will have its own ramifications for a global growth perspective. Second thing is that China is more and more concerned about security, internal, external. And I think they are looking at more resources from a domestic side, that how they can take up more and more global and local resources. So China की जो complete philosophy है वो change के लिए जा रही है underlying. And I think that's a very, very big change China is going through. The third part is that I think the geopolitical world order is changing, friends. And if you believe that you need to form a view on equity, you need to form a view on the geopolitical side. After COVID, I think the geopolitical order has gone completely changed. So West is on the one side, part of Europe and US. Russia, China has been on the other side. And in a way, the geopolitics will stay the way it is, or it will get worsened as you move ahead. And this will have huge, huge impact on the countries like India, and I'll touch upon that. And I think it's very, very important that we understand that this shift, and US is wanting a supremacy over China. China is wanting supremacy over US. And this, fight, and now China is getting closer to Russia. Dollar is getting challenged as a reserve currency. A lot of trades of China, Russia, even Saudi has started to happen in yuan or the local currency. And even India has started to explore talks about countries. So I think there is a very, different geopolitical angle which is happening. And China, I think, is playing a major role in that. And I think China is going through its own challenges as we speak. Coming to India, I think, friends, in a way, we are fortunate, lucky, whatever I can say, that India is an oasis in the vast desert which we are seeing of global growth. And the more and more I see things at the ground level, the more I am getting convinced that if we don't make any self goals, I think over a period of time, we all will be surprised, because structurally at the ground level, there are many things which are happening, which probably I would like to take you all through. I think, I don't know how many of you know, even if we go at 5.5% for the next few years, India will be incrementally 25% of global GDP growth. 25% हम global GDP growth को contribute करेंगे, 20 से 25% के बीच में. Today, India's share in global GDP is about 3.5%. 2013-14 में we are at about 2.5%. So clearly the dominance has improved. And from a 10th position in the global world in terms of size of the economy, we have come to almost the 5th position, now 4th. And I think over the next 6-7 years, we'll be among the 3rd largest economies, surpassing Japan. So clearly, I think globally, people are not able to grow. And even if we grow at 5 to 6%, somewhere between that, I think we will incrementally add 20 to 25% of global GDP growth. What is happening this time, friends, is that there are structural things happening at the ground level. And after a long time, and if you guys would have heard me in the past, last 1.5, 2 years, I believe that uh, the investment cycle at the ground level, which was dead for almost 10-11 saal, has started to pick up. And this investment cycle is led by many things. So I don't know how many of you know, among all the major countries in the world, since 2008, which is the global financial crisis, India is the only country which has seen deleveraging of the corporate plus government debt combined together, household, corporate and government debt combined together. सबने debt add किया है, हमने debt को reduce किया है. And I think today's India Inc. is in the best position it has been over the last decade or so. And COVID came as a blessing in disguise. सबने अपने वर्किंग कैपिटल को काटा, पैसे को कम किया, कर्जे को कम किया, और जो भी कैश फ्लो आया डेट रिडक्शन में उन्होंने पे किया. And I think this incrementally is now going to help us, because जैसे जैसे capacity utilizations factories की बढ़ रही है, and today on an average, as per the last RBI data, it's about 74-75%. So clearly you will see that incrementally capex will start to pinch up, and sector by sector if I go through, कहीं ना कहीं कुछ बड़ा revolution हो रहा है, friends. I and the team were at the ground level few months back. We visited tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. And I can tell you, the kind of optimism is where Indian entrepreneur के ground level में है, मैंने last 10-15 साल में नहीं देखा. And when you deeper, this actually is a real optimism which most of the people are sharing. Let me take sector by sector. So the first one, which is coming as an important part, is, friends, the entire export opportunity plus import substitution. So all through, if you guys remember, we were import dependent, China के ऊपर थे, हम सब चीज कर रहे थे. But let me give you case by case, small examples which will understand कि क्या ground level पर हो रहा है. You all may have known about the electronic industry. 6-7 साल पहले ऐसी situation आ गई थी कि तेल, कोयला, गोल्ड के 4th item में import में electronics आ रहा था. And the way it was growing, probably it would have taken the other 2 asset classes very hands-on over the next 5-10 years. And it was a matter of great concern कि अगर हम इतना electronic import करेंगे, तो हमारी current account की क्या होगी, currency की क्या होगी. And I think the PLI scheme has come as very handy, which is production linked incentive scheme. Friends, there are 2-3 things which I would like to talk about. I don't know how many of people have visited Sri City, but अगर आप जाओगे तो आप believe करोगे, आंध्रा में है, तमिलनाडु से बहुत close है, so you get the talent. When I was there last, there are about 200 applications pending to set up the operations in Sri City. I jokingly asked the person, ki boss, there are not too many companies which does capex of 2 lakh crore, 200 companies doing capex. But how come the entire 200 companies have filed for application of setting up operation? 10,000 acre ka industrial cluster hai. And then I got the answer that the entire ecosystem on mobile, electronics, everything is coming up. And I don't know how many of you are aware, the 3 suppliers of Apple, which is Foxconn, Pegitron, Wistron, all 3 have set up operations in India. I don't know how many of you have read, for the first time, we have exported more than $1 billion of iPhones. And my sense is over the next 5 years, India will do about $100 billion of mobile exports. Our value addition today still is 15%, but as the volumes grow, the entire ecosystem is getting developed. वो camera module guy आ रहा है, वो display screen वाला आ रहा है, and so many other people are coming and setting up operations in India. And I think the electronic export will surprise all of us. And the way I am looking at most of the global majors, चाहे वो Apple हो, Samsung हो, the entire Chinese brands, OnePlus, everybody, they all are looking to have manufacturing base in India, which was never the case. And you all must have read how Team Cook came to India for a 5-6 day visit, just from an opening up perspective. And this shows that the India's importance. And I was with a very influential person a few weeks back, and what he said was an eye opener. He's an international expert. And he says that not only because big companies want to set up, it's the White House dictate that they want to come and set up operations out here. The reason is because I spoke about the geopolitical disorder, and US government realizes the entire largest market cap company on the planet is Apple, for example. And the entire supply chain is dependent on China. The entire market is dependent on China for goods. What happens tomorrow if the way US has banned Huawei, China also comes and bans Apple product, for example, overnight? The entire market cap collapses, and all the US investors and economy suffers. I think they are coming from that strategic point, and they are asking all the strategic companies, the large companies in US, to please diversify your supply chain, and India is coming handy. About 135 companies have diversified their supply chain as per our data from China, and about 15 to 20% of that have reallocated to India. Some may say it's a small number, 15-20 क्यों, 50 क्यों नहीं percentage. Some may say it's a good start, and if we can monetize and capitalize on this, it can be a great one. So I think electronics entire ecosystem is developing very well. And let me give you another example on ACs. So हम इस साल 1 करोड़ AC बेचेंगे मोटा मोटी. And AC is one category apart from the COVID period. For the last decade or so, paints and ACs are the only two consumer categories which have grown in double digits. And आप सब बोलेंगे कि भाई आजकल एक घर बनता है उसमें 5 AC तो जरूरी है. And I think clearly, as the weather temperature keeps on increasing, AC becomes a necessity. Friends, 80% of our ACs were imported from China, either gas-filled or not gas-filled. Government 2 years back and came and said that nothing doing. पहले gas-filled ACs पर आपने import duty लगा दिया और बोला कि gas-filled आप आओगे और नहीं आओगे तो उसमें import duty है. And slowly and gradually, government discouraged the ACs import. And my sense is that this is a great move, because next 12 to 18 months, I'm not sounding optimistic, I'm giving you real numbers, that 70 to 80% of India's AC will be manufactured in India. And 2-3 large compressor factories coming. पहले ऐसा था कि compressor भी बाहर से, unit भी बाहर से, outdoor unit भी बाहर से, अब सब इंडिया में आ रहा है. And I think that's a very, very important structural change which is happening. And my sense ki this value addition, which was 30-40%, will now move to 70-80% in the next couple of years. And I can go on giving examples on this import substitution plus export opportunity. And over a period of time, my sense is that a lot of global companies are coming to India for lighting, for air conditioning. And just to give you some numbers, $120 billion की industry है air conditioning industry globally, जिसमें कि room ACs, commercial ACs सब आ जाते हैं. और उसमें China $80 billion का catering करता है to the globe. And globally, I think more and more companies, चाहे वो Japanese हो, European हो, US हो, they are looking at India from a manufacturing standpoint of view. I was with one of the companies which does outsourcing for ACs very recently, and they said that a lot of companies from Europe and US are coming here. Can you white label and send it to us? Because you have all the capabilities which you can do. And just few registrations at the local market and you're good to go. So friends, I think there's a large opportunity coming, and this is visible across chemicals. हमने देखा last 6 साल में किस तरह chemical sector में पूरा tailwind आया. हम 1.5% थे पूरे chemical industries के, आज 4-4.5% हो गए. And there you got the the wealth creators and the multi-baggers got created out there. Similarly, we saw in electronics also, many of them became multi-baggers, and more will get created in my view over the next decade or so. The third part is on the defense side, friends. Something big is happening out there, and globally, if you look at everybody today is short on defense equipments because last 15-20 साल से इतनी requirement नहीं थी. But now with US, Russia, Ukraine, I think every country is realizing that they are under-invested in defense. Just to give you some numbers, US spends about $750 to $800 billion on defense. China spends about $250, $300 billion. India spends about $80 billion. And the entire Europe combined spends about $300 to $350, जिसमें सब कोई आ गए. So now with Russia, Ukraine, everybody is looking at internal security, domestic security. And now, for example, most European countries will spend 4% of their GDP. Germany has said that we want to spend 2 to 3% of their GDP. And more countries are looking more towards rest of the world in terms of procurement because किसी ने किया नहीं था. Domestic एक limit तक आप कर सकते हो capability wise. And India took this stance 2 years back that we went to indigenize. And friends, a lot of great work is happening in this sector for the next 5-10 years. And this year, 80% of our procurement, I am glad to say, will be indigenous. I visited one of our investee company recently. I was there at the factory, and I was surprised to see that the kind of vibration and the excitement is there from a defense procurement perspective. And this company has done a Pinaka missile over the last few years, and government is yet to place an order, but Armenian government, because they want missiles, they have placed a 300. It's on a public domain basis. One can obviously go and look for it. So I think what we thought that it will be for India, I think more and more, I think India could become a great hub for export opportunity on defense as well. Don't ignore this, because globally, Russia was the major supplier of defense equipments. And now with Russia being sanctioned by a lot of European countries, they are looking to countries which can supply consumables, new equipments, and at a lower cost. And I think a lot of Indian private sector and defense companies, government-owned defense companies, are taking a stride in that. So I think a lot is happening there. Second, I think there's a big acronym in my view, ABC equal to I. And you will all say ABC equal to I kaise ho sakta hai? Is still anything but China equal to India. And I think many sectors like, for example, tile manufacturing, I am seeing that, transition happen. Just to give you some numbers, for example, we were almost 1.5% of export market 5 years back. And हमारा total export tiles का मोरबी से 4,500 करोड़ का होता था. Friends, this year almost we have ended at 17,000 crores of export. And I think that's something which is extremely, extremely important to understand that over a period of time, these entrepreneurs, the Guju entrepreneurs, the 600, 700 of them have gone out and kind of, took upon the status and did that. So I think it's a great vibration across sectors, which I am seeing among entrepreneurs. And among states, there's a good competition. Companies after companies, when you speak, UP and Andhra are the two states standing out. Some great work is happening in those states at the ground level. State is giving a lot of encouragement to industries to set up their operations out there. And we track a very simple data of CNC machine. Agar koi bhi industry se associated hai, so you will know that what CNC machines I am talking about. And it's a machining tool. It's a equipment. And we normally import CNC machines a lot in the country. And earlier, out of 100 machines imported, 10 used to go to in UP. And now the latest data which I saw, 30 machines are going to UP. So UP में कुछ बड़ा change हो रहा है at the ground level on industrialization. Similarly, in Andhra, companies after companies you speak to on consumer and other industrial companies, they are saying Andhra's policies are fantastic. Consumer have a lot of disposable income in their hands. So I think broadly the investment cycle is extremely looking good, and that gives me the confidence that this time the growth of India over the next 5-10 years could be more structural. नहीं तो हम क्या है टैक्स काट के ग्रोथ को लाते थे, कंजम्पशन पर पूरा ग्रोथ डिपेंडेंट था. बट ये साइकिल में if manufacturing starts to do well, and there are signs that this time stars are aligned for manufacturing. I think we all will be surprised with the way things can happen. Second, I think important is the real estate cycle. I think after maybe 7, 8 years, last 1.5 years has been good for real estate. And I think it's more a structural cycle for the next 5 years. And inventory levels are down, launches have started. So in between, आपको थोड़ा slowness दिखेगा आगे पीछे करके. But over a period of time, I think real estate should do very well in the coming years. And our sense is that when real estate does well in an economy like India, 200 industries along with it does well, whether it be cement, steel, plywood, tiles, consumer durables. The entire ecosystem starts to move along with the big elephant, which is real estate. And consolidation has happened, RERA has happened. So all the structural things, the foundation is laid very well. And I think that's something which is very, very good. So my sense is real estate and investment cycle will make sure that the economic growth could be more sustainable this time, rather than going down to 3-4%, coming back to 7-8%. I think 5.5-6% could be a good number over a medium term. And don't forget, we are living in an uncertain world. We are living in a volatile world, VUCA world, which we say. And slowly and gradually, if we laid the foundation well, I think it will be a great one. On consumption, I think wanted to give you a feedback to all of you that in the near term there is some slowness, and last 4-5 months there has been shift in consumer preferences from, say, consumer durable or home improvement or what they spent during the COVID to, say, travel, hotels or jewelry because of the wedding season. And I think apart from these three categories, every other category, चाहे वो QSR pizza हो या paints हो या entire durable हो, home improvement, everybody is seeing slowdown, and we have seen in the results also that this slowdown is there. But am I too worried on this intermediate slowdown? Answer is no, because structurally, if investment cycle and real estate cycle, manufacturing is looking okay, they will feed into creating more jobs, and the more jobs will feed into creating consumption, which is more good from a longer term perspective for a country like India, rather than cutting tax like in 2010-11, spurring the consumption for a year or so, and then falling flat again, because the real disposable income has not got created. And friends, to be honest with you, we are at 3.2 trillion. The moment we move to 5 and 7, which will happen over the next few years, a lot of new categories on consumption will get added the way it got added in the last decade or so. And more aapko essentials of food will become lower and lower, and more discretionary spend starts to happen, which is recreation, real estate, credit card spends related, home improvement, consumer durable, and so forth. So I think watch out for this space from a more structural perspective. And over the next 5-6 months, if weakness happens, disappointment happens, it could be a great time to own some of the great franchise and companies, which you or we always wanted to have it in our portfolio. So that's from a near-term consumption perspective. Now, a lot of people may ask, what's your market view? So barring the, if I don't know how many of you know, but Nikhil Bhai knows I've been a little careful on the markets for the last 12 months. And friends, I think incrementally, I believe that 18 महीने हो गए हैं markets में कोई return नहीं बना. And this is a good phase because एक froth था market में, and consolidation के बाद वो froth निकल गया है. And कहीं ना कहीं valuations have become a little more saner. But my view is that the next 6 months could be a very, very exciting time. And this next 6 months to 8 months will be great time to increase your equity allocation. The time correction has happened for the last 18 months, September, October 2021, markets peaked out. And I think incrementally our sense is that next 6 months could be the heightened environment for news flow. मैं यूएस की बात किया, यूरोप की बात किया, डोमेस्टिक में अर्निंग्स डाउनग्रेड की बात किया, क्रेडिट इवेंट की बात किया, और ये सारे के सारे न्यूज एकदम हाइटेंड रहेंगे नेक्स्ट 6-8 महीने में. एंड मार्केट्स एट टाइम्स विल गेट डिसअपॉइंटेड ऑन अर्निंग्स, एंड आई थिंक दैट विल बी द बेस्ट टाइम टू स्टार्ट इंक्रीजिंग योर इक्विटी एलोकेशन. एंड इफ वी कैन डू दैट ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, I think markets will reward us in 24 and 25 is my view. And you already have seen correction happening almost from the all-time highs. 55-60% of the companies have corrected by more than 30%. From 52-week highs, that number is again a decent number to start off with. But have the valuations become completely juicy? Answer is no. But incrementally, my sense is in the next 6 months, if market remains sideways or slight lower, valuations will become attractive on FY24-25 basis. And let me take you few of the slides where people always ask me large cap mein lagane ka, mid cap mein, small cap mein. So let me show you our philosophy of what are the indicators we follow, and some sense on the earnings side, because finally stocks are slave of earnings. Agar earnings move hogi तो market अपने आप उसको reward करेगा, जो last 2-3 साल में हुआ. So just let me. Can you guys see this?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So
Yeah.
friends, this is something which is, nobody will talk about it, but Nifty 100 value participation. It's a great sentiment indicator. So if you look at this chart from April 2004-5, market में हर बार 2 phases आते हैं, greed के phase, एक fear के phase. What this indicator does is जब भी greed रहता है market में, so कोई को भी large cap नहीं खरीदना है, सबको mid and small और micro खरीदना है, and as a result जो 100 रुपीज एक्सचेंज में वॉल्यूम ट्रेड होते हैं, उसका 45 to 50% वॉल्यूम्स ओनली लार्ज कैप्स में ट्रेड होते हैं, बाकी सब मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप में होते हैं. ऑपोजिट इज ट्रू व्हेन फियर इज देयर ऑन द स्ट्रीट, like in 2020, 2013, 2017, 18, where people want large caps only and they don't want mid and small caps. And that time, I think 70 to 80% of volumes on the top exchange is on the top 100 stocks of India. And I think that's a very, very important part to know that, because finally, that's what decide what's happening. If you look at this part, this is the table. These left one is the periods where there was fear on the street. And if you look at the Nifty 100 value participation, it's about 75-80%. And the next 12 months, if you would have invested in mid cap at that point of time or small caps, the mid cap minus Nifty 12 months return forward is brilliant. The outperformance is to the tune of 30, 40, 50%. Similarly, on the fear side, when you look at the fear side, times like this, when Nifty 100 value participation gets below 70 or 65%, there is greed on the street. And if you invest at mid and small caps that point of time, the returns are generally lackluster in the broader market. This ratio, which was 45-50% in December, is now moved to above 60% as we speak, because mid and small caps have underperformed over the last 2-3 months. And I think that's a great opportunity that in the next 3-6 months, if markets remain sideways or corrective mode, the moment this number moves to 70%, you'll be reasonably assured that यहाँ से mid caps में और small cap broader market में पैसा लगाने से पैसा बनेगा. And I think that's a very, very important sentiment indicator. I think still it's at about 60% plus, not still getting to the comfort zone, but over the next 3-6 months, you must do a STP, and probably that will be a great time that you will get a lower of the market. The second one is on the earnings downgrade cycle, which I spoke about. So if you look at, normally market bottoms out in 3 or 4 milestones. पहला एक credit event होना बहुत जरूरी है, जो हमने last month देखा हो गया. Is it the end? I don't know. And the second milestone which I always track is that markets bottom out तभी होते हैं जब earnings downgrade 10 से 15% की हो जाती है. And अगर आप इस बार देखो तो निफ्टी में earnings करीबन 4 से 5% घटा है, बट ब्रॉडर मार्केट में ऑलरेडी 9% से अर्निंग घट गए. सो कहीं ना कहीं ब्रॉडर मार्केट विल स्टार्ट बॉटमिंग आउट इन द नेक्स्ट 3-6 months. निफ्टी में बिकॉज बैंकिंग हैज बीन अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट, एंड आई विल टच अपॉन द नंबर्स व्हिच आर वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टू सी. बैंकिंग के कारण निफ्टी की अर्निंग्स डाउनग्रेड इतनी नहीं हुई है. सो मे बी निफ्टी में काइंड ऑफ बॉटम आउट एट 7-8% अर्निंग्स डीग्रोथ, बट ब्रॉडर मार्केट में ऑलरेडी 8-9% का अर्निंग्स डीग्रोथ हो गया, बिकॉज वहां पर फाइनेंशियल्स की वेट कम है. लुक एट दिस चार्ट. दिस इज द टॉप वन इज द थर्ड क्वार्टर नंबर के बाद हम लोग कोलेट करते हैं, एंड दिस नंबर शोज दैट BFSI 500 कंपनियों के टॉप 500 कंपनीज इंडिया में जो हैं, उसमें BFSI इज अबाउट 81-82 कंपनीज. उनकी पैड ग्रोथ थी 48% लास्ट क्वार्टर भी. और जो नॉन बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज है, जो ब्रॉडर मार्केट है 420 कंपनियां, उनकी earnings growth थी 12% negative. So clearly banking ने पूरे results को टाना, और as a result your overall earnings growth was about 6%. Same story was there for 9 months also. That 9 months, if you look at the banking and financial services, it was a 50% earnings growth, but non-banking services was negative 10%. And my thought is that next year, which is FY24, which is we are already started April, banking profit 50% नहीं रहेगा BFSI के. I think that should get normalized to 15 to 18%. But non-banking financial companies जो negative हैं आज के दिन, they should start improving, because margins was a big hit for them last year because raw material cost has gone through the roof. Now that is started to normalize. Most of them are down by 20 to 30%. चाहे crude बात कर लें, gas बात कर लें, so and so forth. And I think that will help on the raw material. But what I am worried for this time is, जो अपने को next 6 महीने में opportunity provide करेगा, is that money supply growth is coming down very fast in India as well. And the second is the WPI inflation. Or WPI inflation has a very strong link from a revenue growth of companies, because inflation आता है तो companies की revenue growth अपने आप अच्छी हो जाती है because price increase होता है. And I think that's something which is very, very important to understand, that revenue growth is also very, very important to kind of get into. So overall, I think revenue growth is something to understand, that इस साल एक disappointment आ सकता है, but margins should start recovering. So I think non-BFSI should start doing reasonably okay. But next 2 quarters is where I expect some more earnings downgrade cycle. And that time will be the peak of pessimism. And that is the time you start allocation, increasing equity over a period of time, and you will not be disappointed, probably in 24 and 25. अगर आप ये देखें तो एक थोड़ा सा earnings consensus is slightly more optimist. तो इस साल हमें लगता है कि निफ्टी का EPS करीबन 9 से 920 के बीच में आएगा, और नेक्स्ट ईयर दिस नंबर शुड बी, पीपल आर एक्सपेक्टिंग 1080, हमें लगता है 1000 से 20 के बीच में आएगा. तो 4-5% अर्निंग्स डाउनग्रेड यहाँ पर हो सकता है फॉर 25. दिस इज अ ब्रिलियंट चार्ट. This shows that how money supply globally is linked to Nifty growth also. So look at the yellow one. This is the global M1, 3 months, annualized and advanced by 12 months. And there's a lead and lag relationship between the money supply and Nifty earnings growth. And if you look at Nifty earnings growth, जो slow हो रही है, because money supply started coming down, the Nifty earnings growth has also started to come down. And over the next 2 quarters, I believe that this should get normalized and bottomed out. This we do on a sectoral trend basis. 28 सेक्टर को हम ट्रैक करते हैं, उसमें 14 में ठीक ठाक चल रहा है. Hotels, auto side, bearings, cables and wire, infra, construction, realty, capital goods, and the rest 14 are doing reasonably okay. एक चीज ये दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि why I am saying investment cycle is doing well. This is the companies across infrastructure, defense, EPC सारे. आप खाली लास्ट वाले कॉलम पर ध्यान दो जो TTM लिखा हुआ है, एंड ये कॉलम को आप देखोगे तो मोटा मोटी आपको सब ग्रीन दिखेगा. ग्रीन मतलब ऑल टाइम हाई book to bill ratio, which means that the health of most of the infra companies, defense company, power T&D company, capital goods company is very, very good, and the revenue visibility for next few years is very, very good. And this is one exercise we did. We took about 135, 136 companies in the engineering and capital goods space. And you will be surprised to know that last year in FY22, 81 companies had the highest ever revenue in a year, and 43 companies had the highest earnings in a year. In the first 9 months, which is till December, 13 more companies got added to 81 base, and 40 more got added to 43 base. So in a way, 94 companies are sitting at the highest revenue in a year, and 83 companies are highest profit in a year. And that's why I say that the investment cycle is still looking good. Valuations may look a little expensive, but हमने देखा है जब cycle turn होती है और mega trend रहता है, तो next 4-5 साल the cycle does well. and you have to be a part invested in that part. And I think manufacturing, infra, cap goods, all are looking quite good. And this has been one of our overweights in the portfolio for the last couple of years. Nearly 70% of mid caps have seen earnings downgrade at the start of 22, and almost 50% of them have seen 10% plus earnings downgrade. तो ये स्लोनेस ऑन इकोनॉमी ब्रॉडर मार्केट में रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है, दो निफ्टी में भी पॉइंट टू पॉइंट फ्लैट, बट अगर आप पोर्टफोलियोज इंडिविजुअली देखो, स्टॉक्स इंडिविजुअली देखो, तो ऑलरेडी 15 से 20% आपको हर स्टॉक में अपने पोर्टफोलियो में करेक्शन मिलेगा. This is a very important chart which I wanted to show. I showed you a sentiment indicator on mid and small caps, कब लगाने का नहीं. And this is another very important indicator on the fundamental side. So what I track is the P, the earnings yield, which is nothing but 1 by P. और अगर earnings yield आपके attractive zone में है ना, तो उस समय noise चाहे जो भी हो, आप ले लोगे तो आपको बहुत फायदा होगा. अगर आप करंट फरवरी का अर्निंग यील्ड देखो, तो लार्ज कैप का 4.5% है, मिड कैप का 4.5% के आसपास है. So there is no big difference between large and mid cap for you to go and find. If you look at on an average, pandemic में करीबन 1-1.5% का फर्क था. That's where you made huge money in the overall mid and small cap space. I think in the next 3 to 6 months, which I'm talking about, you should see the earnings yield of mid and small cap becoming more lucrative. And that will be the time when you go and deploy a reasonable amount, depending on your risk profile, in the broader market space as well. This is the correction which has started. And if you look at about between almost in the Nifty 500 companies, about almost 150 companies have seen between 30 to 100% kind of a correction, which is roughly about 20%. And the rest, I think 20% plus companies has been also about 80% of the universe has corrected by more than 10% or plus. So I think there's correction which has started off both from 52-week high and all-time high. And I think if overall economy slows down, global noise is at the peak, this numbers will look more corrective mode. And I think next 6 months, again and again, I'm repeating twice or thrice, will be a great opportunity to increase your equity allocation. Also, one more important part, last 1.5 साल से value has outperformed growth significantly. This is a very, very important chart. Nobody will show you. But after a long time, maybe 1.5 years, May 21 ke baad, when value funds started to do well, I am seeing a near-term sign that growth is coming back again. And growth normally starts to perform better when globally economic scenario is in a slowdown mode. And people like to own businesses which have greater advantages, moats, and stuff like that. So I think the peak outperformance of value funds are behind us. And I think growth as a style and strategy should start doing well as you move ahead. This is all about money supply and stuff like that. These were some of the important charts which, from a near-term perspective, I wanted to show to all of you. Another thing important which I wanted to talk about structurally, friends, is the entire digitalization part which is happening in the country right in front of us. And please, please don't ignore this, because 100 crore bank accounts, 100 crore Aadhaar, and 100 crore mobile connection is the deadliest cocktail India has ever seen. And you would appreciate that we all have gone by COVID just based on one mobile and Aadhaar. The entire 140 crore people got vaccinated in a 9 to 10 months period. And this tax stack of India, I think, is matched in anywhere in the world. And I think this will make sure that our tax to GDP compliance will go up. And look at now, 26 AS आपका आता है जो उसमें आप ₹1 का dividend भूल गए होंगे, but government makes sure that you are reminded of that. And I think everything is now got linked. कच्चे पक्के का पैसे का अब खत्म हो गया है. And आने वाले time पर I think this will only lead to personal tax income collection going up, tax compliance going up. And friends, any policy now government or anybody wants to execute, it's just a matter of few days and weeks rather than years without any leakage. So I think structurally speaking, this tax stack which we have created in India is my biggest one of the reasons of being bullish from a medium to long term. Short term में ऊपर नीचे दिखता रहेगा, and I think this is unmatchable. Within seconds, you can transfer money to anybody in the country through UPI, any time of that day is unbelievable. Nowhere in the world, even in US, people have that. And still people are carrying their vaccination certificate in hard copy. In US, they don't have a digital one. So certain structural changes, I think, is unbelievable, which has happened at the ground level. And this will make sure that the next 5, 7, 10 years will be brilliant from a global, from a growth perspective. ऊपर नीचे होते रहेंगे, कोई बड़ा स्ट्रक्चरल सेल्फ गोल नहीं करें, हम वही चाहते हैं. एंड 2025 से 2032 आई थिंक विल बी अ गोल्डन टाइम फॉर इंडिया, एंड इफ यू आर नॉट इन्वेस्टेड ड्यूरिंग दैट फेज, I think probably future won't be very kind to us. So I think structurally speaking, I think near term ऊपर नीचे चढ़ाव है. We have been cautious on the markets for last 12 months, but incrementally again I believe that next 6 months should be a great time from an overall perspective. So that's broadly on the markets and economy. Markets are trading at about 17.5 times EPS on FY25 earnings, which is not very expensive. And I think some more time correction and price correction, markets will become largely very attractive from a valuation perspective also. On FI front, I think I'm very bullish for the second half of this year. Every day we have some of the big FIs coming to our office and visiting us. I think FIs are very excited about India as a country. India is an investment destination, and I think they are just waiting for valuations to become a little more reasonable and attractive. And everybody is recognizing that China is a short-term trade and India is a longer-term trade. And look at in the month of April, FIs have surprised everybody, and they are positive this month by a good margin. And yesterday also FI figures were very, very, good. So I think broadly speaking, I think we are in a decent wicket. Ups and downs will happen, but I always say since 1993 till 2023, every year, if you chronological write down, you had some of the other problems. Started with Harshad Mehta, going into Asian crisis, going into Pokhran, Vajpayee, Chandrasekhar, VP Singh, all the turmoil in the political space, then the tech bubble, 9/11, then we had a 2-3 year of global good run all across markets, economies, then GFC, then you had Dubai, Libya, oil crisis, European crisis, 2013 currency devaluation in our country. Then you had GST, demon. You had the problems on the European countryside, debt issues, and final, thing about COVID, Agni Pariksha about COVID. But every time you worried, but still on a CAGR basis, from 93 to 2023, markets gave you 12 to 13% CAGR return, and maybe some funds created more alpha for you. Trends from here on till the next 10 years, 15 years, every year you will be getting worried. I can assure you on that. But trust me, if you are having a broader picture of the country, if you're convinced on what we are doing at the ground level, speak to your ecosystem of the things which are changing at the ground level. We may crib about many things, but structurally, longer term speaking, then you probably will believe that every correction in the market, either price or time, will be a great opportunity to increase your equity allocation. So I'll probably stop here. Nikhil bhai, if you give me permission, I can quickly run down through how we look at companies and select stocks.
Sure, Pankaj bhai. All yours. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many people are interested, but let me just run you through. And just before that, let me give you a disclaimer that none of the stocks probably are recommendations to buy and sell. They are just for examples and illustrative purposes. So please take that with proper, disclaimer. So, I always talk about bulletproof investing. And for me, it's very important that you always turn the situation down. So whenever in our team, any analyst comes and says, this is the multi-bagger, I always turn the situation and ask how much money we can lose. And if we can lose less money, obviously it will turn into a multi-bagger. And to me, bulletproof investing and the way I look at funds and the team look at funds is there should not be any frequent huge drawdowns. There should not be permanent loss of capital. Finally, we are judiciary in managing companies, capital of the investors. significant decline of the entire portfolio during drawdown should be avoided. So तेजी में तो सब जन बढ़ेंगे, but मंदी में कौन आपके capital को बचा सकता है? That from me is the bulletproof investing and which we need to follow. Everybody says investing is simple. Yes, investing is very simple, friends, but it's not easy. And I would like to share the learnings which probably I have gathered over the last 2 decades in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I hope you can grasp that. And the best way to learn is to learn from people who have gone through. And I think this is something which I wanted to share with you. So what has the history taught me that, whenever you look on history, it looks like, it was very easy. But when you're going through that, it always is confusing, messy, and you always feel uncomfortable. Just remind of yourself on the COVID. We all have passed through that phase in the last 2-3 years. But when we were in that phase, it was looking so hazy. People were talking, this is a pandemic, this will never go away, work from home will become 100% structural, office space koi jayega hi nahi, so and so forth. And you saw so much of pessimism in the market. Markets crashed by 40-50%. And finally, you have come out of it. But when you were in that situation, it was very difficult from a call perspective, what call to take. But when you are now there on a hindsight, when you look at it, it looks very easy. So, history always looks very easy. But when you are in that situation, you need to live that situation. It's not so easy. The friends, first thing which I have realized that, and it goes especially in my, broader market space, which I've been managing for almost 2 decades now. And today I'm managing second largest mid-cap fund in the country at 26,000 crores. And one of the largest funds of small cap, about 9,200 crores, and total 40,000 crores. And the first thing and a team realizes is that importance of management is extremely important. Getting the right promoter is the make or break. And if you have a lousy promoter, dishonest promoter, a good business will get destroyed. And if you have a high integrity promoter, passionate promoter, a mediocre business will turn into a gold mine. And I remember Henry Ford saying, the 2 most important things in any company do not appear in its balance sheet is its reputation and the people. And it's so, so true. Time and again, we have seen that managements, if they do anything, wrong, it is punished very severely over a period of time. And I think this is very, very important. We brought in some art and science to it, that over a period of time. And again, I believe that looking forward is okay, but going into the past and looking at the management, what they have done to minority is very, very important. Look at what leadership can do. You can see how the top left-hand chart is one of the important ones on the largest market cap in the history, on the planet right now. Again, you can see on the right-hand one being of levers. On the lower one is of Titan, and the lower one is on Bajaj. See how leadership and management are so important in creating value over longer periods of time. And some of the companies are born as a factory. Time and again, they will churn out strong leaders, which will take companies to the next level. And that's how I think leadership always is very, very important in selection of a business. What are the important things we look at? And trust is one of them. I'm sure if I take a poll and if the host takes a poll, which is the most trusted group in the country, unanimously, everybody will say Tatas. And it's not because they have done something yesterday or today. It's the legacy, which is more than 100 years back. And you would remember, Tata Steel didn't have money to pay. And then at that point, Jamshedji Tata mortgaged his wife's jewelry at Imperial Bank and made sure that he wires the money overnight to Tata Steel Jamshedpur so that they can pay off the money. From there, 1920s, the respect and the trust has developed. So trust is something which you have to see over a period, that groups which deserve trust gets it. Why Google is the most trusted search engine? Because the moment you search anything and the outcome come, you just take it for granted that हाँ ये तो सही होगा. So I think one thing which we look very closely is the trust. The second thing is the culture. And I think time and again, it has now proven that every business is a commodity. Me too. What differentiates one another is the culture. The culture that we will not be political, we will do the things rightly, And time and again, companies have differentiated themselves for culture. And we try to do a lot of scuttlebutt going at the ground level, speaking to ex-current employees, trying to see if there's any dilution in the culture or the culture is toxic or good. Many companies can grow very fast, but if their culture is toxic, trust me, it will not be for a longer time period. Integrity and passion. How many companies at the age of 70, 75, 80, the promoter is as passionate and goes to work every morning? The fourth one, we look at scalability, whether the company has the mindset to scale. The problem in India is most companies face is that they reach a scale and then they find it difficult because they don't have created overall bandwidth or thought process or invested in process systems which can take them to a next level. I think it's very, very important that you can reach a scale of X, but from X to 2X, you need a different mindset. And there, I think Reliance has showed the way that how in the last 25, 30 years, they have created multiple business with scale. And the first thing which they always think about is scale, scale, scale. FedEx is another company, for example. The another important thing is succession. I think more and more we are trying to meet the second and the third level of management or the promoters, because the first level is on the verge of retiring. And succession, I think, will create an important one. Bajaj is an interesting case, how two brothers are leading the company and created far greater wealth than what Bajaj in its initial days did. Succession is very important because the kids are born with silver spoon. If they don't have the passion, if they don't have the acumen, the companies will get destroyed over a period of time. So nowadays, we make sure that when we seek management meetings, we ask for succession. The other point is delegation. India में हर आदमी हर कुछ करना चाहता है without delegation, and they want to grow. It is not possible at all. And we there prefer owner-operator model, which means that if you have a promoter who can delegate stuff to professionals and take a more mentor role in capital allocation, customer feedback, R&D, innovation, I think that's a super model to lead in. And look at what a company like Motherson Sumi has created over a period of time with 245 plants globally. I think they have become a real global MNC in the country. The other thing is focus. It's very important because हर कंपनी को एक स्केल के बाद सब कुछ करना है. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी को रियल एस्टेट करना है, आईटी कंपनी को मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करना है, कुछ कुछ सबको करना है. एंड time and again it's been proved that if you have a focus on one thing and you become the master in that, finally you are rewarded. Nike is a classic case. They want to be the best in sports and sports accessories and sports shoes, and the first thing which comes to mind when you talk about sports, any sports, is Nike. And use of technology to assess some of the aspects. Now LinkedIn and Glassdoor have become a very good tool of technological thing, and we use them very regularly to touch base with ex-employees, current employees, suppliers, the entire ecosystem to get a sense on promoter quality. And friends, we have a great network of CAs. We call up the CAs of the local system to know what the promoters, overall thought processes, how he's running his lifestyle, is there a hanky-panky on his, overall approach. And I think that network has come as a great support and resource to us in doing our due diligence when we do that on management. But I'm saying that in India, 80 to 90% of the value, if you can get the right management call right, the values get created and you see a huge amount of wealth creation happening. We believe that tigers don't change their stripes, and history has proven that आपकी फितरत एक बार चेंज हो सकती है, बट अगर चोरी की नियत है तो वो बार-बार चेंज नहीं होगी. So tigers don't change their stripe is an important one. Management downfall normally happens because of complacency, debt, second generation issue, arrogance, and I said diversification, bureaucracy एक organization में set in हो जाती है. We try to keep a very close watch कि कहाँ क्या changes हो रहे हैं, and does that question our entire investment thesis. Second is the business, that there is no shortage of remarkable ideas, but what's missing is that who will execute them. And I think opportunity set is very important. कि ये छोटी मछली बड़े तालाब में है या बड़ी मछली छोटे तालाब में है. If it is छोटी मछली in बड़े तालाब, then you have great opportunity to grow. If you have 1 or 2% market share, you can keep on growing for a very, very long period of time. And what's the competitive edge? Is it the value? Is the product? Is the distribution? Is the innovation? Is the R&D? क्या आपके पास एक competitive edge है जो आपके competition में नहीं है? बट फ्रेंड्स एक चीज आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि ग्रोथ एट एनी कॉस्ट इज नॉट गुड. Growth is good but not at any cost, and there we see that there is a concept of return on equity and return on capital employed. अगर आप मान के चले कि इंडिया का कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल 11-12% है और अगर आप कम जनरेट कर रहे हो तो आप वैल्यू डिस्ट्रॉय कर रहे हो. उससे बढ़िया तो आप एफडी में रख दो, and if you try to grow on that. But if you have a 15-16% return on capital, and if you try to grow at 15-16-20%, then your growth will be very, very accretive. So time and again we have seen कि infra companies, power companies, उनकी ROE, ROC 5-6% रही है और वो 20% ग्रो करने की कोशिश की है. उनका एज अ रिजल्ट या तो डेट लेना पड़ा या इक्विटी लेना पड़ा और उनकी बैलेंस शीट डाइल्यूट होकर उन्होंने वैल्यू डिस्ट्रॉय किया है. सो ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम रियलाइज ग्रोथ इज इंपॉर्टेंट बट नॉट एट एनी कॉस्ट. और जो भी जिसने भी कैपिटल ज्यादा लेवरेज किया वो प्रॉब्लम में गया है. वी हैव टाइम एंड अगेन सीन लाइफ इज व्हाट हैपेंस टू यू व्हाइल यू आर बिजी मेकिंग अदर प्लान्स. And capital leverage, I think, is something which can cut both ways. I always stay away from leverage X of financials, and I think it's very, very important. Look at what has happened in the growth. Syntex Industries, which was in the first time the only company which had Dhirubhai as their board of directors. Dhirubhai, apart from Reliance, was the other director at only Syntex Industries, and they were the leaders in plastics and thing. Then they went and did capital bad allocation on textile, and see after that how the company has gone to complete solvency and destroyed value. Knowing what not to do is most important. And on the right hand side, friends, you can see this book. All I want to know where I'm going to die, so I will never go there. This is one of the Bibles which you should have in your library or in your shelf, and try and read every day few pages out of it. You will not be disappointed. So poor corporate governance is something which we stay away. Weak returns on incremental capital is something we stay away. Companies which have high obsolescence risk, companies which have high technological risk, existential threat from that, we kind of stay away. And also remember that top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity, but cash in bank is reality. वो धंधे का कोई मतलब नहीं जो खाली टॉप लाइन के लिए ग्रो करे, और वो धंधे का कोई मतलब नहीं जो टॉप लाइन के बॉटम लाइन में आए लेकिन कैश फ्लो में नहीं है. So top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity, but cash in bank is reality. If you can follow this mantra time and again, which we try to do, you will make less and less mistake. And making less mistakes in investment is the core of getting successful. And also don't always remember, most companies are not in growth phase forever. Best of the companies in the world have a growth phase for 6, 7, 8 years, and then they start tapering off because of excess competition or maybe something else. So you need to be aware of that. Process, I think, is very, very important. If you are very consistent in what you are doing as a process, probably you know what you are doing, and you will be rewarded over a period of time. And always we believe that alpha जो आप देखते हो वो cyclical है, but process is permanent. And permanent process and a long-term oriented, a growth thought process will make sure that your alpha generation and your wealth creation journey will always be consistent. And that's what we have practiced. I remember my Total Emerging Equity Fund in December 2013, less than 10 years back, was a 51 crore fund. And today it's almost touching 26,000 crores. And gradually we have created, and consistently we have created wealth over a period of time. So how is process important? That whenever we are covering our companies investing, are we reading their annual reports? Are we reading the cash flow? Are we looking at their transcripts, their con calls? And just to make sure that we do forensic very closely. We will make mistake, friends, don't get me wrong, but the mistakes has to be smaller and smaller in number. And don't do frauds over a period, and try to recognize frauds if companies are doing anything in the financial statement. And this is something which we believe that especially in my space, portfolio diversification is extremely important. And the effort is, friends, that जो भी मैंने आपको फिल्टर्स बताए उनको फॉलो करके आप अपने पोर्टफोलियो में 40-50 गोरिल्लाज रखो. उन 40-50 गोरिल्लाज में कोई ना कोई तो किंग कॉन्ग बन जाएगा, और आपको भी नहीं पता उस समय इन्वेस्टमेंट में ये किंग कॉन्ग बनेगा. बट इफ योर फिल्टर्स आर राइट, इफ योर थॉट प्रोसेस इज राइट, इफ योर प्रोसेस इज राइट, many of those monkeys and gorillas will become King Kong. And that's what my thought is, that Don't try to search for multi-baggers. Try and focus on portfolio construction. Try and focus on good managers. Try and focus on good operators, companies which have good promoter sets. And automatically the mistakes will be lower by the process of elimination. And I always say that great investors are great rejectors. Out of 100, you have to accept only one or two. And that's the reason we only cover 450 stocks in our total universe out of the 5,000 stocks listed in the country today. Price is what you pay and value is what you get. And if you buy stock at a price which is absurd, trust me, friends, maybe you may not lose permanent capital, but there will be a time correction. We have seen in many companies, the largest FMCG companies, 20 years back, if you bought at a crazy valuation, it took a long time. The same was with the IT company. 20 years back, if you bought at a crazy price, you got through a very long time correction and markets didn't give you that return. That's why I realized that growth is the horse, valuation is the cart. Valuation will remain sustainable till the growth continues. When the growth starts to taper off, valuation also becomes lower. Also, EQ is greater than IQ. Emotion quotient is very important, friends. And I always say that more than KYC, KYS is important. Know yourself first. And when to buy, when to sell. And during most of the time, people make mistake during greed times and fear times. And knowing yourself is more important than anything else. If you want to be a great investor, first control your temperament. And I think then everything will fall into place. Also remember that at no cost compromise your integrity. Rome was not built in a day, but Hiroshima was destroyed in few hours. Always remember that being trustworthy and being trusted are two different things. And if you are on the right curve, over a period of time, you will be rewarded. So don't compromise your ethics, integrity in whatever you are doing, especially in financial world. And I believe that once you have the trust of your people around you or investors, I think good things will follow over a period. And do not forget to improve yourself every day. I always said that 1% better day always is a big compounding. It's a compounding effect. And if you focus on improving yourself every day by even 1%, trust me, you all will be surprised over the medium to long term. Remain focused. And I think that's something which has gone us. We only breathe every day that how we can create more value for our investors, remaining focused. But focus can also lead to noise cutting. And it's very important in today's world when 24/7, you are surrounded by noise. Making reading a habit, I think this has gone a long way for us as a team as well, that we keep sharing what we read, what we read over the weekends, over the week, and getting that and surrounding yourself with people who are voracious readers, share a lot of stuff, I think can make you a little better as investor in life. The other important thing is humility. I think time and again markets have shown that they are bigger than everybody. But time and again people think that they are bigger than markets, and market gives their own judgment and verdict. I think having a overall thought process that if good is happening, it's not because of you. If bad is happening, it's not because of you. I think you will be probably taken care of. And I think during good times, if market gives you that high, that you are the boss, you are the king, trust me, over a period of time, you will be destroyed very fast as well. So keep a low profile, keep a humility at the overall place. I think you will be surprised at the outcome, which is very, very important. And I say, I think if anybody wants to transform into the next level of investor, they need to control their temperament. And I think nothing more than Vipassana. This is the Mr. Goenka. He is known as the Vipassana guru in the world. And a view of equanimity is something which you will gather from Vipassana as well. So anybody, if you want to take away anything from this last 1 hour for 20 minutes, is that please practice Vipassana if you have not. And I can assure you that you will be a transformed investor. You will be a transformed human being at the end of the day. And just last not but the least, this is something which I wanted to share with all of you. Let's see the kind of fiduciary responsibility we carry. This is 1st of August 2022, just last 6 months back. I went to office, opened my laptop, and here you go. There's a letter handwritten from a 10-year-old boy. And he's saying, I am, dear Pankaj Uncle, I am so and so. I'm 10 years old and I study in this and this school in Abu Dhabi in grade 6. My father has put 1 lakh investment in your Kotak Small Cap Fund. This 1 lakh is my sister's and my whole life saving that we have received from our parents and relatives. I hope you take good care of it so that it can help me pay off my college fees. But I am sure you will since you are one of the best fund managers in the India. This 1 lakh is under my father's folio. So initially I thought somebody is playing a prank, but when I searched their folio number and the investment, it was true. And I had goosebumps for the entire day, and still I'm thinking that whenever you're managing such large pools of money, you don't care about 1 or 2 lakh, but see the kind of goals and trust this 10-year-old boy is putting on a person like me. And I think that's something which keeps you on your toes, and that's the fiduciary responsibility you carry every day. So I think these are some of the things which we do on a daily basis, and making sure that we make less and less mistakes. And I think I have repeated again saying that if you make less mistakes, we will make mistake, but mistakes should not be large enough to take our returns diluted over the longer periods of time. And these are few things which we have done to make sure our stock selection and filters are right, making sure that that fiduciary responsibility is there on our mind every day. We don't fly high when our funds are doing well. We have an element of humility among the entire team, humbleness among the entire team, staying grounded at every point of time. These are some qualitative and quantitative factors which I thought if one practices in investments, they can be a transformed and a refined one. So thank you all. I'll stop here and over to Nikhil Bhai for questions.
Thank you, Pankaj Bhai, for an insightful. Shreya, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tibrewal, for your insightful session. I got to learn a lot about what is happening at a global level, how India is changing at a ground level, the various changing happening in different sectors, which will lead India to become the third largest economy, surpassing Japan. Now we got a general idea about what is happening in the market and what to expect from the market. But do you know the expected returns of your overall portfolio? Alvina, let's share the poll. Alvina, can we have a poll? Do you know the total returns on your portfolio?
So in this, Pankaj Bhai, we've developed some tools for our investors where one can know what is the total return on his entire portfolio, but just not mutual funds, just
Wow.
not fixed deposits. बहुत बार हम लोग आइसोलेशन में देखते हैं कि मेरा ये है, बट मेरा रियल एस्टेट से लेके एवरीथिंग, हाउ इज इट मूविंग, व्हाट परसेंटेज इज इट मूविंग, वो एक आइडिया देता है. बिकॉज like you said, ultimately we have to beat inflation at all points.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So as we can see, 83% of people know their expected returns on their overall portfolio.
Yeah. So we can actually move on to question and answers now. Amaya,
Yes.
would you like to take? So Pankaj Bhai, we got a lot of Q&A questions from our viewers and also from our investors before the webinar. So we thought we'll just run these questions with you very quickly. Yeah.
So Pankaj ji, I think so. You have covered almost the entire foray actually. So now keeping the time and everything in mind, definitely I have shortlisted a few questions which I can ask both of you commonly also.
Yes.
So let's start with the Q&A.
Yes, please.
Okay. So there are a few questions which are like common questions from most of our clients. I have collated those questions. The first question is regarding the monetary policy. That one of the key event that impact the markets is monetary policy. And RBI has decided to take a pause after 11 months of hikes. How do you look at this decision, given the market was expecting a 25 basis point increase in the repo rate?
So I think RBI has done a very good thing. They have recognized that inflation is coming down. and they have been a little forward-looking in that part. I think after even this, they have kept some ammunition saying that we will be dependent on data. So they have not said that we have taken a complete pause and the next move will be a cut. But what they have said that we are being dynamic. As of now, we think that we have hiked enough. We have to see the impact of that hike into the economy and the inflation. And already, if you see, a WPI is less than 2% now, which used to be at 12%. CPI, I think, is at 6%. I think we'll see it falling down because the gap between WPI and CPI will come down now. So it's a good move. And my sense is that even global central bankers, maximum one more rate hike and they will go for a long pause. And don't forget that next year is elections in US as well. So every politician wants to come back to power and making sure that investors are finally in a happy mood when they vote. And US is a capitalist economy. So I think globally also, I believe one more rate hike could possibly be there. And after that, we'll go for a longer pause because Fed will not like to disturb its credibility immediately. And they will say that let's go for a longer pause and then probably towards early part of the next year, maybe start a rate cut cycle if growth disappoints very massively.
Thank you, Pankaj. Nikhil sir, regarding loan payment, now as we know that for last 11 months the interest rates are rising. A common query is that should I repay my loan or should I stick to my current plan? What will be your suggestion for those who have been affected by the rising interest rates?
So Amay, I had this same dilemma when it came to my own house, and Pankaj Bhai knows this story when we bought a house. And I can only, like I always say, that I can only speak from my experience and share what I have done for myself. So so I had a loan of about 3 crores 20 lakhs when I bought a house. I took a loan of 320, and I had an option to repay the entire loan and not take that EMI of 3 lakh rupees or so, and run that SIP with, of course, with Pankaj Bhai and other funds. But I chose to do otherwise. What I did was I invested that money, and we just did some calculation. And if I had done the entire money invested at that point of time, what could have happened? So over a period of time, August 2018 is where I had taken a loan of 3.22 crores. The EMI was 2.87 lakhs. And after some time, the interest rates went up. I started my loan at 8.85, then it went down to 6.2, and then now it is 8.44. So it पूरा journey travel किया उसने. लेकिन if I look back now, मैंने अगर वो पूरा पैसा invest किया किसी ने, and I just assume 10% growth on the 3 crore portfolio, the value would have been about 6 crores or so by now. However, the EMI, मैं केवल EMI की जगह SIP करता, so my value of that SIP would have been about 2.67 crores. So the difference is still 60-70 lakh rupees of gain, because मेरा outstanding loan आज भी 2.67 crores का है. So see, there is a value, time value of money, but there is also a value on the capital that you keep in your account, the capital that you maintain with your the liquidity that you maintain. And over a period of time, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 10 years down the line, that 3 lakh rupees EMI, because of inflation, will start looking smaller, but your capital will keep going up. So I prefer that way. But if you're extremely uncomfortable with the loan that you have, you should start repaying a little bit in between. But personally, if you have a steady cash flow, a steady job or a career, you should, and it's not more than 30% of your total income, you should continue with the EMI. And these, I think, like I said, I started at 8.84. Even after it went down to 6.2, और वहां से मुझे अभी 8.44 लग रहा है, तो मुझे ज्यादा लग रहा है. But I started off at 8.84 only, I mean, in 2018. So not that the rates are beyond where I had started. So yeah.
Great. Actually, this is a first-hand experience of the investor himself. I can say that. Moving on, Pankaj, spoke about a lot of macro factors also, but there is a question from many investors about oil, that OPEC has recently cut the output to 1.16 million barrels only per day. What if the crude oil touch $100 per barrel? What will be the pressure on our current account deficit and inflation? How do you look at this situation?
So obviously, as a country, one of the risks we need to factor in is oil prices, because whatever said and done, we are still dependent on oil, and it's a energy which is imported into the country. And we have seen that how last cycle we got impacted. But the good part is that intensity of oil to GDP over the last 8-9 years has been gradually coming down. And if you look at the way renewables are coming up in the country, biomass, other energy sources are coming up. And if hydrogen, green hydrogen, we can do it rightly at the right cost, I think it will be a revolutionary change for the country. But yes, in the near term, we need to be careful and cautious about the risk, which is oil prices. I think we have seen that even at $100, we have been able to do it in the right way. We have not got impacted massively. A few months back only, oil touched $120 after the Russia-Ukraine war. We are able to surpass that as well. So yes, it's a risk, but gradually that intensity of oil to GDP is coming down every year. So that is something we need to keep in mind.
Thank you, Pankaj. So next question is slightly, most of the investors will be able to relate to it. And the question is from Mr. Vinesh Shungare. He's asking this question to you, Pankaj, that, mutual funds have not performed well in last 1.5 years. What can be expected next, going forward here? You touched briefly on this, but a deeper one.
So I think mutual funds are, in a way related to the market outcome. It's not that they are absolute return funds; they are relative return funds. Few people may generate alpha over it, which is excess returns over the benchmark. Few people may not, and that leads to underperformance. But if markets have given no returns in the last 18 months, so markets peaked out in September, October 2021. We are in April of 2023. And time and again, we have seen, Ame, that market moves in cycles and phases. It's not that every year you will make money, but if you are persistent, if you are, disciplined, and for a longer period of time and you're patient, markets reward you. I think it is good what has happened in the last 18 months, that markets have seen consolidation. If markets would have been only moving up, it would create a bigger problem for all of us. And I know that, in the first 2 years of COVID, youngsters were making a lot of money in future and options. And I can tell you my story of one of my nephews. I got a call from my cousin sister, and she said that he's flying high in the air. And I spoke to him. He said, "Mama, Papa ne jitne life mein paisa nahi banaya na, maine 2 saal mein paisa bana liya." Such was the arrogance of that kid. And I said, "Beta, you will also lose that money in a year, what your dad has not lost in his entire lifetime." And that's exactly what happened. So I think tuition fee to dena padta hai sabko market mein. Bina tuition fee to koi seekhega nahi market se. And I think that what has happened with a lot of young people, and SEBI recently came out with a report that 90% of people don't make money in trading. So I think it's a great thing that market has consolidated over 18 months period. The froth and the excesses have started to come off. And people thought money making is easy, which is not always. Another 6-8 months, I think you will see more filtration happening. And then markets in its own wisdom will start to pull off again. So it's a good that earnings are catching up now. Earnings have moved up. Corporates are in a better shape. Froth is out. And that's why I say 18 months have been a sideways movement for most of the markets. I am seeing retail fatigue I am seeing more of these questions in every webinar. that FD में 8% 7% मिल रहा है, इक्विटी मार्केट में तो 1.5 साल से कोई पैसा नहीं बना, तो अपने को क्यों रहने का इक्विटी मार्केट में? And I think that's where you starts to see opportunity, because I have seen cycles and cycles again, that whenever such fatigue sets in, you get a good sentimental indicator that at some point markets are bottoming out. So I'm quite okay saying that 18 महीने हो गए हैं, and obviously mutual funds are a part of the market, so they are not absolute return funds, they are relative return funds. So that's why you are not seeing any returns on mutual funds as well.
Nikhil sir, I would like to know your take on this. I mean, the client has gone to the level, he has said that, you know, the 2 साल तक returns नहीं बना है. अगर पैसा बनाना है तो आखिर क्या क्या चाहिए? What is your take on this?
So I have, if you remember in our past webinars, we've always said that पैसा बनाने के लिए 2 ही चीजें चाहिए. You need ignorance of a child and a patience of an old man. And markets कभी-कभी बहुत ज़्यादा patience भी test कर सकता है. And I completely concur with Pankaj bhai that, and I remember my conversations with him a year and a half ago, that he started becoming a little cautious about markets. He was not very comfortable, and maybe the cousin's incidents added to it or confirmed it again further. So we were also worried during that time. But I'll tell you one thing, that 2009, if I can share my screen and real life story of a particular portfolio, which I can just share right now. Just a minute. Yeah. So this happened, Pankaj bhai, in 2008-9, and this is a real portfolio that we are showing you. This is live today. Okay. During this time, the blue line is the investment, and 2009 में जब वो green is the value. Green में आप देखेंगे कि 2009 में value बहुत नीचे चला गया था portfolio का. Right. Now in that time, that was a shock to the investor, and he started withdrawing money consistently. And as you know, 2010 का जो एक peak आ गया, उसके बाद 3 साल पैसा नहीं बना किसी का. 2013-14 तक पैसा नहीं बना equity में. So such was a time that 2-3 years of lull, you know, excitement पूरा चला गया था market से, कुछ भी नहीं था. So he kept withdrawing this money. Now, if you see the what happened was, and then they came back. I mean, the investor came back in 2014 के बाद थोड़ा पैसा वापस लगाना चालू कर दिया. Today, as we speak, the 23 crores that he invested, current value is about 73 crore rupees. At the same time, 2006 में एक और एक investor थे who started investing, and this is his portfolio. As you can see, same time he started investing. This investor started in March 2006. This gentleman started in 2006 February. But he kept investing in that 2012-13 के period में. ज़्यादा पैसा आया नहीं, लगाया नहीं उन्होंने. If you can see after 12, but the line was steady. They did not exit the portfolio. Now his current investment is 20 crores. The capital is 20 crores. The value is 106 crores. Wow. And this is what the price, like you said, ना वो tuition fee कभी-कभी 23 करोड़ की हो सकती है. So and like we've always discussed that bull markets, I mean markets are very punitive. मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा punishment भी कर सकते हैं, वापस आने के लिए मौका नहीं दे सकते. So this is what happens most of the times, that if you don't and then maybe this slide will help you, that bull markets हमेशा बीच में एक lull period देते रहते हैं. And we've seen 2000 से 2007 में 6 declines थे markets में. This time though it is more of a time correction than real correction as such. And we've seen 2007 6 to 8 to 20 में भी declines आते रहते हैं. And these are part of your portfolio's movement. So I have always maintained that bull markets will create money, but bear markets will create fortune. So I feel this is the time when you have to be a little more aggressive. And we've not done this before. We've not gone back to our investors in last 1.5 years and said that we have to be aggressive. Also, in fact, we were worried, Pankaj bhai, when all the tech IPOs were coming and We in fact went out and said we had one webinar with Nilesh Bhai where I actually showed that why one should stay away from IPOs.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think next 6-8 months could be a great time to increase your allocation, which I'm getting a confidence now. And that's what I've been saying, that my level of cautiousness has started to reduce. And if you are a real believer on what's happening at the ground level, these are opportunities which you get very randomly in India, but use those opportunities to increase your allocation.
So thank you. Moving on, there's a question from our client, Mr. Praveen Kumar Chilka. He's asking, this is specifically to you, Nikhil sir. He's saying that if we invest in gold or property, we use it for our enjoyment. How can one person invest in mutual fund and enjoy its benefit? आप हमेशा निखिल सर बोलते रहते हो कि इन्वेस्ट करो इन्वेस्ट करो इन्वेस्ट करो, तो अगर उसके अलावा कुछ करना है तो क्या, I mean, what will be your take on this?
See, personal finance is very personal than finance. तो नंबर से ज्यादा आपका लाइफ के ऊपर भी डिपेंड करता है, and it depends on what life cycle you are in. The portfolio अभी हमने जो बताया of 100 crores, the investor is now withdrawing money every year and we are happy about it. Because वो उस कारण के लिए इन्वेस्ट किया था. As long as you invest for some particular purpose and आप achieve करते हैं, you should exit money and you should definitely utilize that money. Going back to returns, if you have invested since 2008 to 2023, I'm very sure and I know that the returns would have been about 14% or so if you are fairly invested long term. And I'm not saying कि आगे चल के ये आएगा, but this time has been higher. I mean, high inflation wala period bhi tha, low inflation, but I don't think the returns should be that poor. And when it comes to like I said, if you're in that life cycle, you should invest. If you're in a life cycle of withdrawal, आप retired हैं या आपको पैसे की जरूरत है, तो you should definitely continue to exit money. This is all I can say on this.
Thank you, sir. Pankaj ji, now thoda sa hatke, a question is that, as the United Nations report has come in that India is going to be a most populous country, it has already happened actually, we have surpassed China. Do you see overpopulation as a boon or a curse?
You can, what should I say, see the glass half full or half empty. I am an optimist, perennial optimist, because in equities, if you want to manage funds, you can't be a pessimist and manage funds. Okay. So let me put some stats to it. Okay. So obviously, I see that if we can harness this opportunity, it's a great one for us. There are few things which I would like to discuss. So India will be having about 20 to 25% of global middle class population in the next 15 to 20 years. Okay. And 20-25% of the middle class population will reside in the country globally. India will be the largest consumer market on the planet for the next 50 years. India will have the youngest demographic working population. The average age is 27. Maybe next 10-15 years, this will move to 30s, but still we will be among the youngest countries in terms of population globally. It means that as a market, you can't ignore India. And the belly will keep on moving up from aspirers to the middle class and middle class to the rich. And I think many businesses supporting, and financial services is one of them, consumer related businesses is another. I think they will have next 20 years of compounding if you run the business in the right way. And people, for example, take your business. People, when they cross a certain threshold income limit, they want to save and invest. And people like you will come as a great support. So my sense is that when you look at India from a slightly more longer term lens, there's no country in the world per se, except few African countries, which will offer such opportunity. I always say that Warren Buffett says that he and Charlie Munger were blessed to be born in America. 20 years later, when we look back, you will say that we were blessed to be born in a country like India. Because the wealth creation opportunity which you will see in this country will be enormous. Also, population comes with its own challenges, Amay. Challenges on creating work for everybody, challenges on demographics, challenges on democracy, challenges on making sure that everything is okay. Because running a house of 10 people is different, in a joint family. So running a country of 140 crore people is not easy. So over a period of time, if you realize that if you can create more growth and opportunities and job employment, things will be taken care of. But that's a challenge. So I would look at it as more as an opportunity, and along with this, the challenges which comes need to be addressed. The good part is China, for the first time in this year, will see a decline in population. It has never happened in the last 30, 40 years in China. So the demographics which happened in Japan and Europe and other countries have started to play out in China for the first time. So in next 10 years, China will see a decline in population, consumption, and so on and so forth. And opposite will be true for India. So I think it's a great one when I look at it as an equity investor. Obviously, there will be challenges, but we have to navigate those challenges gradually.
Thank you for that view. Actually, it is definitely encouraging. Actually, so just a last question before we close today's session is that, and I'm taking a liberty over here to do some crystal ball gazing. That do you see any non-financial event like COVID-19 or Russia-Ukraine war in near future that investors should keep an eye on?
See, I'm worried about the geopolitical order. And I think world is in a bipolar state. And we have to acknowledge that fact when you are investing in an asset class like equities. World is not a same place where it was a decade back. And clearly, the conflict of US and China is now wide open. And that has now got murkier even with Russia coming close to China. So I think the world is divided into terms of Eastern and Western powers. At every point of time, there's a risk of Taiwan. How will it play out? And China is becoming more and more dominant in terms of geopolitical. I think the way India has conducted itself in the last 3-4 years, it's a matter of extreme pride to us. When would you have expected our external affairs minister going abroad and talking in such a stern way and making our stance very clear? So India has got its voice with its demographic markets opportunity, which I spoke about. Nobody wants to take a panga with India, to be honest with you, the large powers, because their interests are also aligned to that. Economic interests are aligned to the country. So I think India is in a very, very sweet spot, if you ask me. We have stayed neutral all this while, but making our voice here in the global arena. I see smaller things, G20 coming to India, with all nations now coming next in September to India. It's a great thing. This shows about that the power which you command. And I'm sure all of you and your investors, when they travel to any part of the globe, it's not the same way we are treated, which we used to be 20 years back. So there's a respect for the country. There's a respect for overall what we are doing. And I think geopolitically, if we can manage it to our advantage, it will be a great one. But please don't forget that world geopolitical risk is the biggest risk, if you ask me, in the near to medium term. And I think that should be taken. Interest rates will come, go out, market demand, slowness, margins, all are, shorter term phenomena. But geopolitically, landscape changing is a slightly longer term phenomenon. And just as a lighter note, because this is a light question, I don't know if any of you believe in astrology. Okay. If you do, there is a handle on YouTube called PVR Narasimha Rao. Okay. It's a long weekend, so probably, and he's an IITian professor in Chennai. Very occasionally he comes out with his videos, but very interesting videos he has. And in March, he came out with a video on 4 countries, India, Russia, China, and US. And he also spoke about, from an astrology perspective, how China is becoming more and more powerful. His prediction is that 2028 to 30, we'll see multiple wars globally. India will become more and more stronger. And according to him, 25 to 32 is the golden decade India will, well, in golden period India will go through in terms of growth, in terms of leadership, in terms of everything you can talk about, and world will recognize it. So we can, just on a side note, an interesting one on a handle which is on YouTube. You can go and have a look, and probably I don't understand that much details, but broadly what I could understand is that US power will keep on coming down, China will become more and more powerful, and India will see a voice where global powers will align to India rather than China.
That's brilliant, Pankajji, and thank you for actually giving that, because I am sure that other than OTT, people have something else also to watch. So thanks a ton for taking out time for us, and it was brilliant to hear you, and especially the second part of PPT was like something to savor for, because that is far more relatable for our investors. So thank you once again. I'll just over to you, Shreya.
A humble thank you to Mr. Pankaj Tibrewal, Mr. Nikhil Nayak, and Mr. Amaya Godse for taking time out and sharing your view with us. And also, thank you to all the participants for joining us on a weekend. I hope we were able to add value to you. Bye and take care.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pankajji.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
You too. You
Bye.
too, guys. Thank you.
Bye.